I think we are ready, Janine.
We are live.
Thank you, everybody. Welcome to the Specialized Learning Curriculum Subcommittee meeting. Today is April 25th, and it is 5:32. I am joined by board members Mary Ellen Flaherty-Ludwig and Erica DePalma, and Rob Pennington, Bridget Adams, Deidre McKinnon, Hannah Cohen. I think we are going to go ahead and start our meeting. So I'm going to send it over to Rob to begin, and then I believe to Bridget.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us. Tonight's conversation will be discussing extended school year, or ESY for short. I want to just start off the meeting by thanking members of the specialized learning team for coming. And so we have Bridget Adams, who's the executive director, Deirdre McKinnon, education administrator for specialized learning. We have Hannah Cohen, who is our director of related services. We have Rachel Davis, who is our administrator who supports middle schools. Veronica Lenzen, who is our administrator who supports high schools. So we have a wide range of administrators here for the conversation. And I wanted to take a minute to say thank you to them for taking time out of their evening and joining us. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Miss Adams, who is going to lead us through the conversation.
Thank you, Rob. And hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday evening. Thank you for gathering today. And hello to everyone in the community and universe who is watching us on this live stream this evening. I am very grateful to the board for the opportunity to meet monthly, and to members of our team for joining us this evening for a discussion about extended school year. Our dates were shifted a bit. We were initially scheduled to meet last week, and I also want to express gratitude for the flexibility in shifting that date. Members of the team were attending a national special education law conference, and contents of that conference may become part of a future subcommittee. It was 3.5 days packed full of great learning. We were actually excited to see that case law that was in some part contributed to by Norwalk Public Schools was part of conversation that we took place in. So that was really exciting to be nationally recognized. I do want to also acknowledge, and Rob, thank you for introducing the members of the team who are here tonight. Jamie Granite, special ed administrator for some of our elementary schools, has also joined us for the conversation. So it's super exciting to have the team here. A moment ago, Rob introduced Veronica Lenzen, who is the special ed administrator for high school programs and transition programs. I just want to take a moment to highlight and thank her for her contribution last evening. We had a great time on the green celebrating Autism Acceptance Month, and Veronica addressed the community and represented our department and the school district, the town, and most importantly, our students incredibly. And we're very grateful to her and the work of all the members who came last evening. So I've seen pictures and articles that are out and about, and so I encourage you to see them and take a drive by the gazebo that is lit up blue for the remainder of the month and potentially into May. I've heard a rumor. So tonight we are coming together to talk about extended school year, often referred to with an acronym, as is everything, oftentimes in special education. We refer to extended school year as ESY. And so this evening we'll come together to define it. We'll talk about how services are determined for individuals. We will talk about the structure of the program for this school year, which we refer to as ESY 2023. We will talk about the inclusion of related service provision in ESY. We'll take a look at some sample schedules at different developmental levels. And with most of our PowerPoint presentations or slide decks, we do include information for reference. So we may not belabor those schedules, but they'll certainly be available to the community as a reference of a sample schedule. Then we'll talk about a planning timeline, the work that the department, these supervisors that are here, are engaging in to ensure that services are prepared for and implemented with fidelity throughout the summer. And of course, we'll have time for Q&A. I look forward to an informal discussion, so please feel free at any point to raise a hand or interrupt with questions. And I'll be asking some of the special ed administrators to jump in to talk about specific areas that they're working with, if everyone's comfortable with that. Certainly, if not, don't be afraid to say, you take it from here, Bridget, and I'll be happy to do that. So when we talk about extended school year, we are speaking about special education and or related services that are provided to a student with an IEP when school or preschool is not in session, with the purpose of preventing loss of skills. Specific services vary based on individual need. And you see on this slide examples of what ESY services might look like for students with IEPs. An individual may come to a location for math, reading, and speech services, or perhaps social skills and behavioral intervention, or both. Some individuals may receive only social skills. And it's important to note that students will receive services if they're on the cusp of learning a new skill, and services are required to ensure that learning is not interrupted. It's also important to note that students with IEPs may not need services. An IEP does not necessarily imply that ESY is recommended. A bit of background, and we won't go too deeply into the law, but just to understand that ESY has been referenced since the reauthorization of IDEA in '97. And with the amendment in 1999, it was made specifically clear that ESY must be available as necessary to provide FAPE beyond the school year and at no cost. The Connecticut state standard uses regression and recoupment criteria, as well as non-regression criteria for eligibility. We'll talk a little bit more about this in just a slide or two. Non-regression is defined as, or identified by, the nature or severity of a student's disability. And regression or recoupment criteria consider the likelihood of losing critical skills or failure to recover those skills within a reasonable time.
Bridget, can I jump in?
Of course.
Just for a sense of the quantity of students in our whole special, let's just look at IEP students.
Sure.
What percentage or what number of IEP students will be eligible for the ESY in Norway?
That is a fantastic question. And something I considered was identifying what those percentages were in the past, but those data points actually aren't predictive in value, and they change every year because it is a yearly determination. And we haven't finished determining yet for the school year. Our target is mid-May. So what I'd like to do is provide that for you at about that mark. When we finish these recommendations in mid-May, I'll be able to give you a very concrete number of students eligible and then students who register.
So just to get a sense before we move forward, I look forward to the mid-May report, but I'm thinking along the lines, and so I want to be corrected if I'm wrong, that of the IEP students, maybe 10% would be eligible for summer school. Is that
super hard to predict?
No,
it really is hard to predict. I think in the past, we might have been able to say, say 20% of all students. We have seen the trends that we used to be able to predict vary quite significantly with the advent of COVID. And as we return.
Okay, strong point.
Yes.
Strong point.
So
I would take that.
it would be difficult to say we can anticipate X number of individuals. I can run a report of those for whom ESY was recommended. But again, until we finish with those recommendations, I would be uncomfortable sharing that, but it will be as concrete as can be once we finish. And it's important to that question to note that when ESY is recommended, it is not mandated. It's very interesting. So if we were to recommend a specialized service in reading or speech during the school year as part of the annual review and the typical school year program that this city offers, that would be a mandate. Extended school year is offered as a recommendation, and there is no penalty if a family chooses not to register their child. And so conversely, a parent also can't elect ESY. It has to be a PPT recommendation.
And that's really to my point that I would like the general audience listening to be aware that having an IEP is not a direct route to an ESY.
That's correct.
It might be less, I'm for sure less than half of the kids in my guess, but you don't have to say that.
Thanks. But we will definitely take a look at it. We'll see. We'll see what the under over is.
Okay.
But
okay.
Ultimately,
you can go ahead.
The goal is to ensure that everybody who needs those services has those services. And that's our obligation. So
that's our lofty goal and obligation. Yes.
That's right. And we will meet that goal. So to the point, ESY services are the exception, not the rule. Eligibility is determined individually and discussed in a general sense at PPT. So it's very difficult if ESY is being determined at a PPT in, say, October at the annual review to name what the dates and times and locations will be. So at PPT, when determining ESY, we talk in a general sense. Here is the trend. This is the anticipation. Some PPT groups will choose, if the annual is early in the year, to reconvene toward the end of the school year. And some of those meetings are occurring now. And so that's why we don't have a true account. And so at those review revised meetings, ESY is considered. And so when considering, the folks here, the supervisors whose faces you see, are guiding the teams to make decisions based and grounded in data that speak to non-regression, regression, or recoupment. There is a live link in this document that will take you to the State of Connecticut topic brief, which is the law and the guidance that we use as special educators to make the decisions.
Hi, Bridget.
Hi.
I just have hi. I do have some data. I can say that in 2001, our number was 137 around, and I can say that in 2022, it was around 143. So they've
individuals?
been pretty, yes.
That's great.
Consistent,
Thank you.
yeah.
So 2021 was 137 individuals?
Yes.
And 2020
registered, yes. And
okay.
2022, 143.
So then, Mary Ellen, to your point, that's who chose to take advantage of the recommendation. Mm-hmm. And I would love to then pull the data to compare it to those for whom it was recommended. And circumstance weighs in.
Of course.
And there are so many reasons why families may not elect ESY, although it's a recommendation. And that is the family's choice. Interestingly, it's comparable recommendation to transportation. When a student receives transportation as a related service on the IEP, it is recommended so that a student may access their education. But a family can choose to transport their child on their own. Just because we've recommended it, it's not a mandate like speech service would be.
Thank you.
So, oh, Erica?
Nope, I'm good.
Nope. Okay. You lit up. So this graphic shares criteria by which a team will guide their conversation to determine eligibility. These are 7 key criterium, but a student does not need to meet all 7. There is no rule, there's no formula, but these guiding questions can lead a team to make an appropriate recommendation. And this, as I mentioned, occurs yearly, often at the annual review or at a time that the team determines is most appropriate. It is always determined, as every PPT decision is, through data, through a review of data. And it is with consensus through the team. Deirdre, would you be comfortable speaking about some of the structures? I want to give folks a rest from my voice. Oh, except you're muted.
Yes, I know.
Thank you.
Yes, so students that are going to go to Summer Academy, who are going to go to the ESY for K-3 are going to basically follow the same structure as we had started in summer of 2022, where they're going to go to Summer Academy with their gen ed peers. So they're basically going to follow the same exact schedule. It's a 4-hour day. So they're going to basically receive their services by the special ed teacher, either through push-in services or through pull-out services. So they may receive 2 times 30 minutes a week of math support, 1 times 30 a week of
Speech,
like social work, speech and social work support, either pushing in or pulling out. So we started this new structure last year, and it worked, really, really well. And they basically go to lunch, recess, trips, all with their peers.
Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Yep. No. So that's how K-3 will work. Does anybody have any questions on the K-3 structure?
I appreciate you sharing that, Deirdre, because I wasn't here last year when this structure was implemented. So
right.
I'm very grateful for that. And so this year we'll be continuing that process where Summer Academy will be occurring for students in grades K-3. And part of the guidance from IDEA is that in all places where we are able to, we create learning opportunities with typical peers. Rachel, I'm coming to you in just a second. We are then adding a layer of ESY support for students in grades 4 through 8. And we'll actually map out for you the locations where services will occur, but they will look a bit different than the K-3 structure. And the reason for that being that Summer Academy will run for K-3. And so we are developing ESY classroom spaces for students to receive their services, but also participate with other students who are in programs, either within the building or in the community, to the greatest extent possible. And Rachel, if you would talk about not only how that's occurring, say 4 to 8 in that general sense, but about some of the middle school specialized programs that are happening concurrently.
Hi, so currently we have 5 specialized programs at the middle school level. We have 2 STARS programs, which are housed currently at Nathan Hale and PONUS. Those are for our more comprehensive learners. We also have the PINE program housed at PONUS. And then we have the success program for more of our students struggling with behavioral needs. And then we have the literacy that was housed at Roten. And then we have the literacy program, which is 6 through 8, and that is housed at West Rocks Middle School. So this summer we will have a success program, and then we will have the 2 STARS programs housed in the same, I believe in the same location. And then we will have a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. We will have a special education teacher for each of those grades, and obviously including 4th and 5th at a separate location to middle school. Our literacy program, we are hoping to combine the incoming 6th graders with the outgoing 4th and 5th will be housed together. But yeah, so that's how that's going to go. Have a special education teacher assigned to each classroom with a teaching assistant. All related service providers will be there to provide service. And as Bridget said, we're hoping to, get all the students together for some fun activities, field trips, and things based out of, summer fun and academics, while still providing, what's in their IEP in the summer.
Thank you so much, Rachel.
Sure.
And as we're building that continuum from where Deirdre began her conversation with kindergarten through
Bridget, could I go back just for a second with Rachel? Are those specialized programs associated with the Maritime Summer Aquarium? I know there was a grant that we got for summer school. How does that weave into this?
You're muted.
Okay.
Rachel, you're on,
Rachel, you're muted.
Sorry, guys. Don't you hate that? So yes, the answer is yes. We still have the deal with the Maritime Aquarium, so they will still be coming. Historically, it was incorporated also with the Summer Academy, which we do not have at the middle school level this summer. But we will be doing other field trips and in conjunction with the Maritime Aquarium.
So that would be 4th through 8th. I remember we got another grant for that, and I was just wondering how the whole thing came together. And that's what you're saying. Yes, it's going to happen. Will it be once a week, or is it
so
more frequent?
One of the pieces I'll just jump in is we have applied.
Thank you, Rob.
It's no, I just wanted to talk about the grant piece of it, which you mentioned. We have applied for the grant. We received it last year. It's a yearly grant. So every year it's actually applied for by the Maritime in conjunction with Norwalk Public Schools. So we have applied for that grant again. We are moving forward implementing Maritime as part of our summer program, in the hopes that we do get the grant, but we're doing it anyway. I just wanted to share that piece. If we get the grant, that's a positive thing as well, just from that opportunity. We meet with them from April until June once a week, and that is to plan out the summer program with them. So last year, one of the pieces that we built in is that certain grades were taking certain animals and learning about those, so that if a student was continuing and you're in 3rd grade, you're going to learn about sea turtles, and in 4th grade, you're going to learn about sharks. And so every year you're learning about something different. And when you go to the aquarium, your focus is on that area. So that piece of what the schedule is going to look like, we are in the planning phases with the Maritime, and what that will look like. But usually it's a once a week trip, and once a week they come into the classroom to provide enrichment, because it can't just be one or the other. We found that it needs to be a collaboration where they're in the classroom working with our students, and then our students are going to the aquarium to visit the site and to have those experiences.
Just think that's so exciting and so wonderful that we're doing that.
Wonderful. All right, I'm going to turn it back over.
Thank you. So I wanted to just build up that continuum. We're talking about kindergarten through the 8th grade. I'll certainly note here that at the early childhood level at NECC for our students in preschool and rising to kindergarten, there is also a comparable ESY program that is occurring. And Jamie, I was going to ask you to talk a bit about special programs at the elementary level, but if you'd like, I could slide a little bit out of order and bring us here for a moment. This chart illustrates the locations where all of the extended school year programs will be occurring, and as well as their times and the connections between schools as they come together in some sites, but not others. We try to consolidate as best we can. So Jamie, would you mind just talking a bit about Literacy Academy and then some of the programs that Rachel spoke about at the middle school level, I think she mentioned are occurring at elementary as well. Thank you.
Yes. So every year, this is my 4th year in helping to plan ESY, and I feel like we get better every year on where we're putting the sites and how we're building each program. And the Literacy Academy was a little bit different this year because we only had a 5th grade cohort, as we talked about at our last subcommittee meeting. So we decided, Rachel and I spoke, and we decided with Bridget that it would be a really good idea to keep the students in 5th grade with their NARAMAC friends as far as what they're doing in school, but that we would take one of the teachers from the middle school who teaches the Literacy Academy and come down so that they can get acclimated to that teacher and learn, her style and how to work together and sort of the curriculum for the middle school. So we're really excited because this year they'll have that little extra boost before they get to go into middle school, where last year they were more incorporated into the summer academy with different supports. So again, every year it changes a little bit. It depends on locations, but it also depends on which students qualify. And we only have a small number of the Literacy Academy from the 5th grade qualifying. So it made sense to do something like that. And just like the other programs, we're combining Kendall and Wolf Pit. So we'll have a continuum of students that receive push-in, pull-out services into Summer Academy. We'll also have LEAP. And then as we talked about before, all of our students who attend ESY or Summer Academy are really connected to a general education classroom. So Mary Ellen, I believe that was something you were kind of alluding to, is how would they go on the field trips? We try to mirror it just as the school year. They're general education students. So they're part of that classroom. They're attached to those classrooms, which means they go on the field trips with those classrooms. But their services, again, could be push in, pull out, dependent on what their needs are.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mary Ellen, I have a question.
Yeah. Is that Erica?
Yes.
Yeah.
So in the instance of Silvermine, Cranberry, and Wolf Pit, the kids in those neighborhoods are going to be going across town. Was there not an option to put them into Marvin on this side of town where we're not busing kids that far for summer school in the mornings?
I will certainly defer to Rob for that question.
So you mentioned Silvermine. Silvermine is right near Concord, which is on the Ponus campus. So that one they're close to each other.
Oh, right. I'm thinking of the old.
That's
Yeah.
why I just provided clarity. And
Yeah.
that one of our biggest focus areas for the most part, it's not always a perfect science, but some of our schools have larger numbers and some of our schools have smaller numbers. And so when the team was planning for summer, one of the main goals was to try and, yes, we looked at distance between schools and sites, but we also really wanted to look at, is there a way to have a larger site paired with a smaller site? Because it just makes for a more focused summer program versus when you have two large sites together, it becomes very crowded in a building. So those were the two factors that we focused on, like Marvin and Merrimack, they were right next to each other, larger school with a smaller school. And so just in that comparison, it's not always perfect science, but those were the two factors that we used when creating partners. Because last year what we found was we used only location as the factor, and we had a lot of large schools combined together. And then we had a couple small schools combined together, and it's just a better flow for the programs.
And have you received feedback from parents that logistically, two questions. Logistically, a Cranberry parent trying to get to Fox Run in the morning, has that come up? And also when you've got kids that are in the 4 and 5 grade level versus a kid in the same school in a lower level, and a different school in the lower level, that you've got to get two kids to two different locations?
We try to keep the sites together. So like if I have a student I'm a Cranberry student, and I have a first grader and a fourth grader, they would be going to the same site.
Okay.
And so like if I have a student in the LEAP classroom and I have a student at Wolfbit, they would be going to the same site. So like we do try to keep the schools connected. So depending on where, like Rowayton has a STARS classroom, and students there may have a sibling at Rowayton. So all of the students, both students, would be at Brookside for the summer.
Okay, I guess I was just wondering if, and this, I mean, we're talking small numbers here, but if I've got a kid in Cranberry and I've got a kid at Nathan Hale, can I logistically get across town to two different locations and have those two kids? I mean, because we saw this with early start time where there was feedback from parents that, now I'm trying to get two kids to different locations with the exact same start time. And in this instance, we're also combining the fact that it could be across town.
All of our middle schools are at Ponus. So in that scenario, Fox Run is right next to Ponus. So
okay,
like that's why you can see the time, the connection there. But there could be, and Kendall as well is a start time, and Concord is a start time. So we did try and look at start times and locations. So you see Concord, Kendall, and Fox Run are all connected to Ponus, and they're all an 8 o'clock start time. So we did think about those logistical components as well. I just wanted to, whereas the 9 o'clock start times are not near Ponus. I don't know if that makes sense.
yeah, no, I just needed to, hear you say that you've already been through those different scenarios.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Right.
And Erica, I would also add that while certainly not all, and again, this is not a rule, oftentimes individuals being recommended for ESY may have transportation services, and those continue in the summer as well. And certainly there are going to be cases where there are individuals who don't have transportation as a related service. But I would certainly ask that any family who finds that they have 2 or more children at separate sites, perhaps reach out to the department. I wouldn't specifically speak on behalf of the K through 3 summer academy program, but certainly anyone in the 4 to 8 or therefore 4 or 5 world, talk with us. Our ESY programs may have some flexibilities to support families with those needs. But I think that ultimately when summer systems occur for logistics, and as you can see from this sheet, it is an executive functioning quandary. And we do all that we can to lessen that to the greatest extent possible. And an example of that, and I had intended to highlight and express my gratitude for the circumstances like the one that Jamie and Rachel just spoke about. I certainly celebrate when our special ed administrators look for and identify the opportunities to bridge students to their next developmental level. And I think in an ideal world, we would have those opportunities for students to get up to the schools for bridge experiences. And in the literacy academy circumstance, having that 6th grade teacher teach the 4th and 5th grade students is really exciting. And I applaud their work in that, and I'm excited about other opportunities where we see those bridges. And so again, in speaking to executive functioning, Hannah Cohen, our special ed administrator for related services, is here with us. So I am going to ask her to just speak briefly about related services, as I know that all of our folks have kids to get to and family obligations, and I'm so grateful for their time, as I often will say. So Hannah, just before you have to leave us, would you be willing to talk about related services in summer programming? And then Veronica, we'll come back to the continuum.
Of course. Thank you, Bridget. And I do apologize that I have to log off a little bit early today. So related services are also services that are provided in the summer for students who are eligible for those services. We do provide speech and language therapy for any number of goals and objectives related to speech and language, whether it's articulation, language, pragmatics. Counseling services are offered as well for social skills and mental health. Occupational therapy, working on fine motor, visual motor skills, as well as sensory skills. And physical therapy, which focuses on gross motor and being able to safely access the school environment. As well as BCBAs, board certified behavior analysts, are also on staff in the summer. They supervise the discrete trial instruction, the DTI instruction that's provided by RBTs, so registered behavior technicians. They also support the implementation of behavior plans. So similarly for related services, a student would have to meet qualification criteria for those services in the summer. So, as students with IEPs may not necessarily qualify for ESY, similarly, students that qualify for ESY for academics may not necessarily qualify for related services in the summer as well. We do need to look at the same criteria related to those specific related services, and the goals that those students are working on in those areas. Similarly, if a student qualified one summer for ESY services, we may not necessarily qualify in subsequent years for ESY in those related service areas as well. So, all of that is part of the conversation that happens at those PPTs, and we make sure that we support our recommendations with the data and, make sure that we're meeting students' needs as much as we are able to. Are there any questions related to related services?
Thank you, Hannah.
Sure.
I do appreciate it. Hannah brings up a point. I need to not click on things. My apologies. Hannah brings up a point that I'll just briefly mention before sending it over to Veronica to talk to us about high school and transition programs. Rachel and Jamie, and Deirdre and Marshall and Sarah have been working together to brainstorm and identify ways in which we can create space and opportunity for families who may only want to take advantage of a particular ESY service. And so, for example, if a student is recommended for 30 minutes of reading instruction and 30 minutes of speech service a week, that's just an hour's worth of service. And we know that if transportation is a related service for that individual, we would invite that student to attend ESY for the day, or perhaps even for the week, so that they can then receive those services. But if a family chooses to transport their child to school just for those services, we're working to find ways in which we can support those requests as well. And I'll highlight the middle school as an example. In Rachel's planning for staffing, she's identified a teacher who can be available for specifically that, a student who has just a bit of service, 1 or 2 times of 30-minute session a week. So again, the creative work of this team is endless in supporting our families and ensuring that there is access to their services. And so with that, Veronica, tell us all about what magic is happening.
Magic would be if all of the platforms could put the mute button in the same place so I can find it reliably, no matter what platform I'm on. So for the high school ESY schedule, the extended school year programming is going to be at Norwalk High School again this year. And we are serving all rising ninth graders, meaning if they're in eighth grade currently and they're going to be in ninth grade next year and they receive ESY services, they would come to the high school. And we go straight through to our rising 12th graders, meaning the current 11th graders who will be 12th graders next year. Our 12th graders who have effectively graduated but still require ESY services would be going to our Norwalk Next Steps program, which I will talk about after I finish this. So typically our students who are recommended for extended school year services at the high school level will participate in this sample schedule that you see in front of you. The teachers at the high school level certainly have the flexibility to rearrange this or maybe do things in a slightly different order based on what facilities they're trying to use. We do have a lovely full kitchen at Norwalk High School. So if there's more than one class and they're going to be doing cooking or things like that, they may want to rotate which classroom they're working in. But typically they come in the morning. We offer them an opportunity to have breakfast and arrive, get their backpacks unpacked, talk to their friends. Then we do a form of morning meeting where they have the opportunity to either read or listen and watch for information with either a CNN 10 or a news type of video. There's an opportunity for socialization, typically directed by a school social worker, so especially for those students who are recommended for for counseling or group counseling services during ESY. This is a good time for them to receive that. They also work on writing and writing for information. And then that's about a half an hour or so. And then we go into an hour of practical academics, which includes small group work on reading and small group work on math. It also includes any ELA goals and objectives that might be on the IEP that need to be worked on for the summer. Typically, our high school students, because they are eligible for transition planning, also need some independent living skills to be worked on during the summer and vocational skills as well. So then we go into some more time for them to work on cooking, as I mentioned, more reading for information, some personal finance lessons, learning about the bus system in town. We do a lot of travel training for our students at this level. So we do start them on learning to read timetables for buses. And then vocational skills, we work with our PACE lab, which we're so lucky to have one at Norwalk High School. And we do mock interviews, we work on job applications and job exploration as well during that time. And then after we've packed all of that stuff into a very short time frame, we do lunch and a fairly brief and well-run dismissal, which I'm proud of because that's not easy to say about most dismissals. And everyone is on their way. And we run our program from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Monday through, well, whatever the days are for ESY. I don't want to get stuck on that, but we do have our schedule for that. And then unless there's questions about the high school programming, I'm happy to go right into our transition programming.
Veronica,
Sure.
I have one
Please.
question.
Yep.
You may have said it, but I was looking at the slide and then back and forth, and I'm not sure what PAES lab activity is.
Absolutely. So I can't tell you off the top of my head what PACE stands for. It's one of those acronyms that
It's fine.
it doesn't mean
what
a
do
whole
they
lot. So I'm going to tell you what we do instead.
Yes.
The
Okay.
PACE lab is set up. It's actually set up for a smaller class of about 6 students. And when they walk into that room, it is transformed into what I would reference as a factory or a production line. So they walk in and they immediately refer to their teacher as their manager, as opposed to their teacher. They have to clock in with an actual time clock or on a computer. And they go to their assignment box where they pull a card that tells them what activity they go to next. And they have to find it on a wall, a shelved wall with all color-coded boxes. And inside that are different activities that mimic real life activities, either on a production assembly line or just in any type of regular business. It includes.
Oh, I'm so happy that I worked in factories every summer. So I have a sense of what you're talking
Yes.
about. That time clock and
it mimics
got my assignment. That's really good.
It does a lot of stuff. It includes alphabetizing, which mimics filing later on in life. So it's all these different skills that they can work on. And it ranges from food prep to business management. based on the levels of what the student needs. But it's a lab, so it's a lot of hands-on.
Yes, and when I was 16 and 17, it made me feel more grown up, and I'm guessing it might make them feel more grown up to do that.
It does, and we have industry standards for timing on it, so the students do work against the timer when they're able, which helps them increase their speed and accuracy and fluency in the activities they're doing. So,
okay, I like it. Thank you for explaining that.
of course, happy to. Sorry for the the acronyms. Any other questions for the high school ESY? Okay, so moving on, our students who are eligible for graduation and have completed all of their high school diploma requirements, but still require transition services as per the state of Connecticut, are eligible to receive extended school year services until they turn 22. So we have developed Norwalk Next Steps, which is one of our transition programs. And that is where we house all of our transition students for the summer. So if we have students who are leaving grade 12 and going into our Project Search program, they would still come to Norwalk Next Steps for the summer prior to going to Project Search in the fall. And our Norwalk Next Steps program includes that arrival breakfast time where they also, that shouldn't be a question mark, that's my fault, I had a typo there. Should be arrival, breakfast, and then they start filling out their timesheets for the week, which helps keep them organized because they do go to work during the week and it helps them calculate their hours and things like that. So we start them off in the morning, making sure their timesheets are ready for the day. We also offer this as an opportunity for some related services to come in and work with students if they need to. Then we go into a half an hour of functional academics, which works on bolstering some of those reading, math, and independent activities of daily living that they might need to work on. And again, it's another time for social skills. So after they've been there, settled in, they've been in for about an hour, we've built in about a half an hour of travel time, which includes public transit training. We also train our students on how to use the Norwalk public transit door-to-door system if they have to call for that, as opposed to the regular public transit system. And this is a time to teach them more about the bus schedules, which incorporates that reading for information. It takes about 30 minutes on the bus to get to the majority of our work sites across the district. So we've built in that 30 minutes. And then for the next 3 hours, students participate in a vocational experience for 3 days out of the week. And then 1 day out of the week, they're either doing a volunteer activity, a leisure activity, or additional practice on those independent activities of daily living. So for volunteer work, we go to the open door shelter. We've done collections. We do a lot of work with Toys for Tots. Even during the summer, we continue to help them organize their toys and distribute them where they need to go. Leisure activities in the summer, we have a lot of fun. We'll go to the movies, or we might take them to the beach. Actually, they take themselves to the beach. We go with them. We go bowling. There's a lot of different activities for them to do. And for activities of daily living, we do make them do laundry. During the week, we have different students who go over and do laundry based on either they can bring their own stuff in, or if we have things that need to be washed, aprons or things like that at the site, we will have them bring those in to do laundry. And those vocational places, we have so many different work sites. We have O'Neill's. We used to work at Hatch and Bailey. We go to Marshall's, and there's just Norwalk Inn, the Pooch Hotel. I could go on, but I won't. And then there's another 30 minutes built in for them to get back to the program. Again, more of that public transit training, time for related services, depending on how long it takes them to get back and how much time is left in the day. And then once again, they get on their Norwalk public school buses and go home for the day.
Thank you, Veronica.
Does anybody have any questions?
Can you speak to how you recruit businesses to participate in the program?
So I will give all of the kudos to that to Jessica Ireland, who's our transition coordinator, as well as Matthew Sweet and Jonah Payon, who are my special ed teachers in the program. They literally go out on their own time to local businesses and say, hey, we have a group of students here at Norwalk Next Steps. They're, describe the students, talk about what they can do. And most of the businesses have really been wonderful about saying, yes, we'd be happy to sit down with you and job develop. And basically our rule of thumb is we don't want to take a job away from anyone else. We want our students to help your people get their job done more efficiently while they learn a skill. And it's really word of mouth. We have done in the past, we've done some Rotary presentations years ago, which brought in a couple of businesses for us. And we've just been so lucky that we've had such wonderful press support from the Norwalk Hour. The event we went to last night was really good for us. We got a couple of people last year who were interested in us coming and working for them. So my staff have done an amazing job talking it up, but the community has been so supportive that we haven't had to work terribly hard to get our job sites.
That's great. And is there any incentives for those businesses to participate, or is it just?
Well, so we do a lot of talking about them as often as possible. We thank them in all of our pamphlets and publications that we have. Any opportunity we have to talk about what work we do with those different places, we do that. And the other incentive to them is it's intrinsic. They're helping out students in their community. And in many cases, they end up with a really well-trained employee before they even hired them. A good number of our students do end up with employment. We have one student who aged out last year. She works at Stu Leonard's in the bakery department. We have another student who got a job at Outback, and they come to them already ready and trained and fully prepared to do the job that they would normally have to train someone to do in those first couple of weeks.
That's a great statement about our community. I was going to ask if Stu Leonard's was involved here, and happily you just brought that up. But
Yes.
that's what I love to hear, where we're as a community looking at our job is to push forward this next generation. And that's good news. That's really good.
We really truly have not been turned away from anyone we've asked. And if anyone had to, it's not no, it's not now. And please come back to us in a couple of months or when something changes. So we've been really lucky. We're blessed, truly.
And we should also add that Veronica and Jess and her team also replicate the work that happens for individuals once they leave us after their 22nd birthday, and are dedicated to that thought of not only what businesses will work with us, but what interests do the students have. And when students identify an area that they want to explore or a job that they're interested in, Veronica and Jess and the team go out and find it. And it's incredible to see that students are engaged in what may become their life's career path. And it's just awesome. It's just awesome to watch.
Good teaching. Good teaching.
Good stuff. Thank you.
So in conclusion, as we wrap up this evening, I did mention that there are other sample schedules within one that outlines what summer academy looks like for our general ed and special education students. There are also sample schedules of our specialized program ESY sessions, and then you'll notice the nuances and differences between and among the developmental levels. Everything that we do is constantly work that is ongoing, progressing, and improving, and we get better at getting better. So you may find that there are some typos in my own executive functioning reporting, and it's this team that supports me as we all work together to support students. And so thank you to those of you who have caught my errors, and we will ensure that this document is accurate. One specifically is I had the time wrong for the next steps work, and Veronica will help me to ensure that we are sharing with the community accurate information at all times. We also, in the interest of transparency, want to share with you our process. And so in addition to the typical work of the day, this team is dedicated to ensuring that ESY is incredible. And this shares with you a brainstormed outline of the work that this team has identified as priority to get us to day one of ESY. And you can see that each of the elements is outlining the work that is occurring and that families are engaging with us to ensure that we are appropriately providing services for them. And so thank you for the opportunity to share our work with you. This team is top notch. They are actually renowned in the state. My friends who are directors in other cities often call me trying to recruit them and I just hang up on them. And so we are very, very blessed in Norwalk to have this team. And it is one of the reasons why I chose to return, is to have the opportunity to work and plan and support students with them. So thank you all for coming together for the purposes of this work and sharing all that you do. And we can certainly close with any questions that anybody might have, or even for each other.
Not a question, but just keep it going. Great stuff. I love that you're, looking at the individual kids, what their interests are, and encouraging that. And just, it sounds like a solid plan. Keep it going.
Yeah, I was going to say the same. It sounds like everybody's working hard as usual. This team is always putting it in. I think that it's great, some of the changes that you guys are bringing in, or the developments, I should say. Sounds great with 5th grade. What's going to be happening there with learning, for getting accustomed to their teacher for middle school. So it all sounds great. I think Mary Ellen said it, just keep it up. It's great. Does anyone else have any other questions or comments for this evening?
I'll just also say that you're all great, just to go on the record.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rob, anything else?
Nope, just want to reiterate, thank you for everyone who could join this evening, and a great presentation as we continue the work, and lot to get done, but they're constantly innovating and trying new things and coming up with amazing plans. So huge shout out to them.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much, everyone. And with that, we will end the meeting. Thank you, and I'll